Welcome to The Writer's Dream. This is a show where authors could talk about how they write their books, how they publish their books, and how they market their books. You can find us on YouTube. Just look for my name, Linda Maria Frank. I'm the author of Annie Tillery Mysteries. Click on my picture and the videos will come up. We've done 150 plus authors on the show at this point, and if you are interested in finding some good books by local authors, or you're interested in writing tips yourself, certainly watch the shows, because there's a lot of information and a lot of good books that are on the show. You can also find us on Facebook. Guess what? The name of that page is The Writer's Dream. If you want to ask me a question or you want to be on the show, please message me through that Facebook page. You can find the show on the local studio here, which is ltv-eh.org. Click on Videos on Demand, look for the show, and you can see any of the shows. And eventually we make it to Cablevision, but that's a whole other story. So today's guest is Darren Sardelli, who is an award-winning poet, educator, and inspirational speaker. Welcome, Darren, to The Writer's Dream.
Thank you, Linda.
Let me say some other stuff about you, Darren.
Okay.
Darren Sardelli's creative poems have been well, somebody needed to edit this, have appeared in newspapers, magazines, chapbooks, farmers' almanacs, literary journals, yearbooks, and a variety of textbooks in the U.S., Australia, China, Germany, India, Canada, Spain, Cyprus,
it's amazing.
Israel,
it's crazy,
England, France, and the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I don't know whether I'm worthy of this interview.
Of course you are. Listen.
How'd you become a poet?
I'm living the writer's dream. You're living the writer's dream, you know.
That's true.
So you are absolutely worthy, and everybody's worthy.
Okay, how'd you become a poet?
How did I become a poet? Junior year of college, I was in my dorm room thinking about what do I want to do with my life, just pondering a few ideas. One idea came to me, you know, how about I write a book for children? And I said to myself, I have a great imagination, pretty good with kids, let's give it a shot, you know. Got excited about the idea, and then I just kind of, you know, just went back to doing whatever I was doing. And you may remember this from our first interview, but then that night I had a dream where I was on a rowboat in the middle of a lake, and I caught this like big black box and opened the box. There was a giant key, glowing green key in the box.
Oh my God.
And I pick it up, and in my dream, you know, I hear a voice that said, "Writing is the key to my future." And then I wake up. And then shortly after that, I went to the library. I just happened to come across some books by Dr. Seuss and Shel Silverstein at a later age. And I was just kind of thumbing through the books, you know, just so amused and entertained by their poetry and their stories. I just got...
You were inspired.
Hooked on the rhythm, yeah. I got hooked on the rhythm and the rhyme, and I was inspired. So started writing for fun, and it just, once I started, I have not stopped since that day.
No, you are
And I
prolific.
keep going and go. I keep going.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
I'm going to, we're going to illustrate one of the key ideas in writing, and that's show, don't tell. So why don't you read one of your poems?
Absolutely. This this poem was actually just published in a magazine. It's called Blast Off. It's part of the school magazine published in Australia, which is absolutely incredible. So this poem is called...
Do you have to turn upside down to read it since it's Australia?
I might have to. I've never read a poem in my head, but maybe it's time I try that. So this poem is called, can you see it? This poem is called I Blew Up a Mountain. Now when you hear that title, Linda, what do you think of?
Blowing up a mountain?
What comes to mind when you hear that title?
Well, you know me, I'm a mystery writer, so I would have terrorists, and I would have dynamite, and a nuclear bomb, and, you know, it would be terrible.
Right, that's not where this poem is going. I Blew Up a Mountain, Blast Off magazine, from the school magazine. Here it goes. I blew up a mountain, a forest, a lake, a llama, a duck, and a gnu. I blew up a 50, a 20, a 10, a 100, a 1, and a 2. I blew up a dragon, a wizard, a gnome, and characters seen in cartoons. The customers gave me some really good tips for blowing up all these balloons.
So did you get them into the Thanksgiving Day Parade?
I'm working on that one.
You should.
I am working on that
You should.
one.
I think you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could do it.
It would be cool if we put your face on a balloon so we could blow you up.
Oh, it'd be like the Donald Trump balloon? I don't think so.
Okay. I'm not talking politics here.
No, me either.
Okay.
I just had this visual.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
where do you get your ideas from? I mean, listen to the titles of these books.
Yeah.
Okay. A Bad Case of the Giggles. Mm-hmm. Tinkle, Tinkle, Little Tot.
Cute.
That happens to be my favorite.
It's a cute one.
I hope I don't strike out.
Right.
What I did on my summer vacation, which we all have been
one.
subjected to.
Right.
Dinosaur Poems, Galaxy Pizza and Meteor Pie,
Right.
Rolling in the Aisles, Peter Pizza Eater, Buses to Books, Dinner with Dracula, and My Teachers in Detention.
Yeah, it's a
there
fun
are
one.
others, but those are the
There
ones
are
that...
many, many more, and many, many more to come too, which is awesome.
Yeah.
It is awesome. So I'll talk about Galaxy Pizza and Meteor Pie.
Okay.
And I mean, it was a poem. It was called Bubblegum Pizza and Lollipop Pie. And I just had all of these.
There it is.
Oh,
Just
yes.
point to it.
Oh, just point to it. Okay. So yeah, so it was originally called Bubblegum Pizza and Lollipop Pie, and it was just all of these dishes with candy in them that could be served for dinner or for lunch, and I was just having fun with it. And then I thought to myself, you know what, it's kind of fun, but how can I step it up a notch? So I thought of, taking all the candy and making them like space terms. So Galaxy Pizza, Meteor Pie, corn on the comet, which is one of my favorite, terms. So I was just having a lot of fun with words. And then what was cool, when the illustrator, her name is Pam Catapano, she did the illustration for the poem, it just looked so good. I'm like, you know what, that's a great illustration for the book cover. And you know what, it sounds great too. Galaxy Pizza and Meteor Pie.
You're making me hungry.
And then, am I making you hungry?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't bring any food, sorry. But I did bring poetry for your appetite.
So, not only are you a poet, but you've been able to successfully take this whole talent of yours and this appeal to kids, so to speak, into schools.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So describe one of your workshops, because you don't just read your poems.
No, I perform my poems. I have assemblies, I have workshops for all different age groups, and pretty much during an assembly, I talk, whatever age group is in front of me, I talk to them in a way that's relatable and they understand, and I'm able to help the little ones understand what poetry is, what it means in a way that they get, which is pretty awesome. And then the older ones, I give them a whole new spin on poetry, and I make it fresh, and I make it cool, and I make it fun. And a lot of them who said they weren't into poetry before the show starts are actually thinking about it and inspired, and they go back to their classrooms and they write their ideas down, and they find themselves writing poems, and I get letters from teachers and parents, and it's incredible how this affects people. In a short amount of time, I could be in front of a group for 30 minutes, and just the perspective of writing and literacy and poetry in people, that could change in such a short amount of time just by me acting and hearing my poems, which blows my mind.
And that's why you're so successful.
That's one of the reasons. Yeah.
What do you hope your audience will get out of these workshops? Do you want them all to become poets?
Absolutely not. No, I'm showing them that I'm doing what I love, I'm doing what I'm passionate about, I am doing what speaks to me. And my message is, do what speaks to you. Whether it's riding a bike or playing the piano or just reading, those could always turn into professions, or they can turn into hobbies, or whatever it is. It's like whatever you like doing, do as much of it as possible, and focus on your joys, and you will discover your passions along the way.
Yeah, when sometimes I do career days in schools,
yeah, sure.
And that's what I talk about with the kids. I say, imagine your day at work. What do you want it to look like?
That's good, right.
And do you want to be outside, inside, with people, not with people? Do you want to work with numbers, words,
Yeah.
trees? What
Right.
do you want to
And
work
the possibilities are endless. You know, this world
Yeah.
is so big. You can work anywhere, with anybody, with anything.
with? But imagine the day at work that would make you happy.
Yeah.
And be passionate about it, and you'll never be really unhappy.
Got to give you a high five for that one. That's
Okay.
awesome. Perfect.
Now, explain the relationship. We're going to get into pedagogy here. Explain the relationship between educating and entertaining.
Okay. I mean, there has to be some educational value when you entertain. So, I mean, you can't just. I mean, I think there is a lesson in everything that we do. So I think there is I
agree with that.
There is some educational value in everything we present. But, you know, you want to, I mean, for myself, I stay away from the toilet humor. I mean, it's funny, it's nice, it's great, but I think, you know, I can, you know, get a laugh out
Elevate.
of. Yeah, elevate, you know, just get a laugh out of, you know, with my poems. The punchlines are in my poems, so just get a laugh with something clever, something surprising, something that just hits the reader in a way that maybe they're shocked, or they're just, you know, the lights go on in their head, and it's just like, wow, like that was crazy. Like, you know, it's just like, give them a whole new direction to think in. And then hopefully they go in that direction and do something while they're in that state.
Right.
Because that's inspiration right there.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's very valuable to have kids see the
Yeah.
different aspects of life.
Absolutely.
How did you get your foothold in schools?
How did I get? When I was first published in a book called Rolling in the Aisles, I had 2 poems published in this anthology, and it was really cool because, like, I mean, there's poets like Jack Prelutsky and Shel Silverstein have poems in there. So for me, that was just the biggest
You were
thrill
over the moon.
ever. Absolutely, absolutely. Douglas Florian, huge poet and painter, artist. So anyway, once I was published in this book, Meadowbrook Press, Bruce Lansky, the owner, author, publisher, you know, they had this program where the authors, you know, in their company would visit schools. So they were just kind of like, you know, trying to push me to go in that direction, and I was terrified. I did not want to do it. I did not want to do it. So, and around that time also, there was my mom, one of her best friends, her name is Ann Schaefer. She was a principal of a school. You know, happened to be over one day, find my poems on the table, which was kind of rare because I never left my poetry out. And she read my poems and she said, "Darren, I love this. You know, kids are going to love it. You know, come to my school." I'm like, no. I'm not. No, I can't do that, Ann.
Now it's your life.
I can't do. Right. But basically, I went into the classrooms for 10 minutes and just read my poems, and it just gave me some.
A spark.
Yeah, it did. It generated that spark, and I saw how people reacted. But even then, I mean, every time I went to a school, every time I put myself in front of an audience, I was terrified. And it took me a while to actually get over that.
Well, I have to tell you that the first time I got up in front of a class, because I've been a teacher, my career was about like 50 years.
Yeah.
I fainted.
You actually fainted?
Yes.
That's crazy. Did
Yes,
anybody
it was.
catch you?
I caught myself.
Caught yourself.
I felt myself going,
So,
and I sat on the floor.
Okay. I was at a.
So embarrassing. Oh my God.
I saw an agent faint one time in front of a group of people.
Yeah.
And that was like the scariest thing.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy that you can be that terrified by just talking to a group of people.
Yeah.
And I got over it, but it's funny because I was fine in the classroom. I loved my time in the classroom. But then if I had to do a group of adults, then I had to get over that hurdle.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah,
you know,
because
from,
I do
from
lectures.
kids to adults.
Yeah, I do lectures in forensic science, and it's always groups of adults. And so, but now I'm
That's
like
interesting.
fine. I'm like, you know,
Okay.
if you're really familiar with your material and you like it.
Yeah.
Did you ever do like BOCES Arts and Education? Were
Yeah.
you in their catalog?
Yeah,
That's another tip for people who
absolutely.
want to do that. So you've been doing this for a number of years. How have your presentations evolved? You started by reading the poetry and then running out of the room.
Started by just going into classrooms and reading poetry and really not looking at the crowd because I was maybe too nervous or embarrassed to even look up. Like,
me too.
They're not going to like this stuff. Like, I mean, this is poetry.
Let me out of here.
I don't know. But now I get on stage, and I just have this presence on stage where I just light up. I'm very comfortable. I'm able to, talk about, what I've done, and also it's every poem that I perform, I have some type of activity or question. I have, a poem called "My Doggy Ate My Essay," and I'll recite it. Do we have time for it? I know this wasn't part of the plan, but I'm going to do it. My doggy ate my essay. He picked up all my mail. He cleaned my dirty closet and dusted with his tail. He straightened out my posters and swept my wooden floor. My parents almost fainted when he fixed my bedroom door. I did not try to stop him. He made my window shine. My room looked like a palace and my dresser smelled like pine. He fluffed up every pillow. He folded all my clothes. He even cleaned my fish tank with a toothbrush and a hose. I thought it was amazing to see him use a broom. I'm glad he ate my essay on how to clean my room, absolutely. So then I'll ask the students, so if you had a pet, or if you have a pet, and you wrote an essay about something, and your pet ate it, and your pet did what you wrote about, what kind of essay would you write? So, somebody might say, I'll write an essay about money, my pet bringing me money, or I'll write a poem about being the best chef in the world, so my pet will be, make me the best, grilled cheese sandwich ever, So I do. I have some type of question or activity with each poem to, just get their minds going, and I just make it fun. I make it fun for the kids.
Yeah, it is fun. I'm having fun.
You're having fun? I'm having fun too?
I'm having fun.
All right, good.
So what have you learned from the kids?
What have I learned from the kids?
You've done so many workshops. What are you learning
I
from the
say
kids?
kids are the most honest, human beings that you'll...
No artifice.
No, I mean, they'll tell you what they think. They'll tell you what they want. They're not gonna, sugarcoat anything, which is awesome. So I think, honesty is a fantastic lesson from children, and they might. I'm trying to think of an example. I mean, there's a lot of examples. Yeah, I mean, they just say the things that just shock me, and they will give me ideas, and by talking to them, I'm able to understand what they're into, what they like, and I write poems that they relate to, so I can work those topics into the poetry that I present for them.
Yeah, I think what I learned from teaching from the kids was that if you respect them and you are honest with them,
yes, absolutely,
they respect you.
They do.
If you try to put something over,
right.
they can pick that
you
up,
can't.
man.
They'll call you out right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the books that you did is called "Read Me Out Loud," and
Yes.
I just think this is like so great an idea. So I'm just going to read the summary of it.
It says anthology, Actually, William Shakespeare is in there.
Yeah, it says "Read Me Out Loud" contains a poem for every day of the year from the very best modern and classic poets. There are raps, performance poems, chants, playground rhymes, action verses, poems to join in with, choral poems, poems with different cultures, monologues, dialogues, poems for a series of voices, songs, poems with sound effects, and poems with actions.
Yeah.
You can read them any way you want as long as it's out loud. Includes poems from Darren Sardelli, Lewis Carroll, Edward Lear, Emily Dickinson, Walt Whitman, and William Shakespeare.
How cool is that?
What a great idea.
Yeah, how cool is that?
What a great
idea. It was
idea.
published in the UK. Yeah.
So our viewers often ask this question: how does a poem or a collection of poems become a book?
Yeah. How does a collection of poems become a book? Basically, I mean,
Well,
who
published you?
How do your books become books?
Okay.
I mean, I think it's it's just it's the same answer.
Very
it's
clever.
not. It really.
Well,
is.
you have to have an edited manuscript.
Yes.
You start
yes.
with the edited manuscript.
Most of my published poems are in books that are anthologies that have been published by other publishing companies. So, basically, it's nice that they do all the work and recruit all the poets and, get the illustrator and, there's a whole team.
You also have books that are just your poems.
I do.
Right?
I absolutely do. And so that takes a little bit more work, a little
Right.
bit more legwork.
And you have to have
So
somebody critique it.
I'm writing the poems. I have an editor, just going through everything, making sure I have everything right. I'm not the best when it comes to grammar.
Now,
I still have problems.
You've traditionally published. You haven't self-published anything, right? You're all traditional publishing?
I've self-published
Okay.
the Galaxy Pizza book.
Okay.
And I'm working on, I have 2 books in motion right now that I'm publishing.
Okay. So then you have to get your own illustrator?
Yes.
And then you have to either work through a company, you either have to get your own graphic designer to set up the book.
Right.
It's really a printer
Well,
file. They could call it a printer file. It's,
Yeah.
it's the format that the
I
printer
actually,
will.
I hired, for the Galaxy Pizza book, I hired a production manager who used to work at a publishing company, was kind of in between jobs, so he did this as an independent project. So he had the printer and all the other people lined up, which was like perfect.
Yeah.
Lined up to just make this book happen.
Yeah.
So, somebody has to, type the poems on the illustrations, and then there's an editor, and then there's, quite a few other people who do certain things
Yeah.
to make this book happen. And then there's, the printer who, I started my own publishing company. And then I didn't go through a, regular company to put a book together. So I did this all on my own. Well,
Yeah, but basically
with help.
you need the writer, which is you. You need an editor.
Yes.
You need a graphic designer. You need an illustrator.
Right.
And you need a printer.
Right. Those are pretty much the 5
a
main people
printer who
that
prints
you
books.
need. And there's a couple other people along the way, but yeah, that's pretty much the answer.
No.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people really don't know how it happens. They don't understand that you have to find all these people.
Right. No, it's a process, and
Yeah.
it takes a long time sometimes.
And belonging to an organization like Long Island Children's Writers and Illustrators is
Yeah.
invaluable, because these people, either they're calling in as guest speakers.
Right.
They have, of course, the members. Some of the members are illustrators, but they're calling in agents and publishers, and they're
Yeah.
letting you know what it
Absolutely,
is that you
which
have to
is-
do.
which
and
is
then
great.
there's also the possibility of turning this into an audiobook,
Yeah.
putting it on Kindle.
I haven't done it yet.
And all of those things, and finding somebody who wants to make a computer program
That would be cool.
out of your lessons and
That
whatnot.
would be so cool.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what you got to do. You
Yeah.
got to look for a person like that. I love to give my guests
Yeah,
ideas.
you do.
So,
Thank you.
your illustrators are different people.
Yeah,
Just
all different people.
Yeah.
Haven't met many of them. Haven't been in contact with many of them. So it's interesting how that works.
Yeah, it is interesting, because I have an illustrator and I love her, because she really keyed into, she read the books and she keyed into the whole idea that I was trying to.
Right.
And I look at the illustrations and I say, this is great.
Yeah, I think an illustrator has to connect with your work
Oh, yeah.
in a way that you connect with your work, some way. So
Yeah. Because when I first wrote the books, I really didn't want to describe my main character, who was
Okay.
a 17-year-old girl,
Right.
because I wanted the reader to come up with their own picture of this
Right.
girl.
Okay.
And then they told me, no, your readership wants to know what she looks like. So the
Okay.
illustrator was a great help there.
Right.
So-
all that works too sometimes.
So have you ever used a kid's poem from any of your workshops? Have kids ever sent you poems that you really...
Kids, they do send me poems. They give me poems when I'm at schools.
But you haven't
I've
used
never, during an assembly, I've never, you know what? I have had some of the students come up and read their poems during an assembly,
That's
but
nice.
I never, yeah.
Well, that's another idea.
Which
Maybe you
is-
want to
yeah,
maybe
which
maybe
is
you
fun.
want to save
Because
them.
you know what? I usually have a question and answer session. The last 5 minutes of my assemblies. So sometimes someone will ask, can I have a poem? Can you look at my poem? And I'll say, oh, how about would you like to come up and read it to everybody? And some say yes, and some say no, and then we usually get them on stage, and they're very happy they did it. And and then all of a sudden it starts it's a trend where everybody wants to read a poem now.
Tell us about your awards.
My awards. I'll tell you about my first award. It was in 2005. I was at a writers conference, the Santa Barbara Writers Conference, and it's a week-long conference in Santa Barbara. And there's just so many writers, so many classes, from poetry to children's books, to writing for television, movies, novels. You name it. They had a workshop for everything, and a professional taught each workshop. So I originally, my first, I went in 2003. That was my first conference ever. So I loved it so much, I came back 2 years later. And they give out awards in every workshop, every category. And so, usually after a workshop, they give, the people, the writers, a little bit of time to read their work. And I mean, my poems were just such a big hit that they gave me this like first place award for children's book writing.
And that
and that was, yeah.
That started you on the road. And we only have like a minute left, so.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes, it goes very fast. And
Okay.
I just will direct the audience to your website, and
Sure.
they can see your website is?
laughalotpoetry.com.
Okay, laughalotpoetry.com.
Or ipoet.org.
And the fact that Long Island and New York City are so highly competitive that
Mm-hmm.
you've achieved the level of success you have is really impressive. Would you like to read? Do you have a minute poem?
A minute poem.
Or just speak a minute poem? No?
Okay, this poem is called I'm Totally Speechless.
Okay. All right. What's next, Darren?
What's next? What's next? These two new books I have in motion right now. One is called The Wild Wild Walk, and the other one is a what if book, all written in rhyme. So it's just
Sounds like
I'm not going to
fun.
give anything away right now.
No,
but they're
don't,
both
don't,
they're
don't,
so much
don't,
fun. But
don't give it away.
The Wild Wild Walk. It's packed with so much alliteration. I just think it's so much fun writing it. And maybe when it's out, we can talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. I would like to have you back. Laugh a Lot Poems.
Laughalotpoetry.com.
Laugh a
Right.
Lot Poetry. Darren, it's been a pleasure
Yeah,
as always, and
absolutely.
lots and lots
Thank you.
and lots of fun.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Thank you.
Fantastic.